In the grim darkness of the far future, war is not just a matter of strategy, tactics, or numbers. It is a relentless contest of annihilation, where entire planets burn and civilizations vanish overnight. Here, weapons are not merely instruments of death. They are omens of terror capable of rewriting history with a single, devastating strike. Some of these weapons are ancient relics, remnants of lost golden ages when technology surpassed imagination. Others are the twisted results of dark sciences, the obscene handiwork of chaos and madness. And a few? They should not exist at all, violating the very laws of reality and physics. From the cyclopean horrors of the Imperium to the god-forged weapons of the Necrons, from the insane contraptions of the orcs to the psychic nightmares of the Tyranids, these are the most feared weapons in Warhammer 40k. The Exterminatus. The most feared weapon in the arsenal of the Imperium is not a single gun or bomb. It is a decree. A simple order that condemns an entire world to death. The Exterminatus is the Imperium's ultimate sanction, a final solution to any planetary-scale problem deemed beyond saving. Whether due to chaos corruption, xenos infestation, or simple insubordination, when a world is declared irredeemable, it ceases to exist. The execution of Exterminatus is carried out in several ways, each equally horrifying. The cyclonic torpedoes detonate deep within a planet's crust, triggering tectonic upheavals that shatter continents and ignite volcanic hellscapes. The virus bombs unleash the dreaded Life-Eater virus, which liquefies organic matter into sludge before igniting the very air, turning a planet's surface into a world-consuming inferno. And orbital bombardments from immense warships of the Imperium Navy rain destruction on a scale that renders entire landscapes into craters and ash. What makes Exterminatus terrifying is not just its destructive power, but its finality. There is no defense, no escape. Once the order is given, the countdown begins, and when the dust settles, nothing remains but silence. Some of the notable Exterminatus events are Barbarous, the tainted homeworld of the Death Guard, deemed unworthy of survival during the Horus Heresy. Alos on Tyran Primus, when an entire world had to be sacrificed to stop a Tyranid infestation before it could spread. And the most notable of all on Istvan III, a truly grim betrayal where Horus, the War Master himself, ordered Exterminatus to nuke and wipe out loyalist space marines in the opening act of the Horus Heresy. C'tan Phase Weaponry. Among the ancient horrors of the galaxy, few are as nightmarish as the Necrons, and among their most dreaded weapons are those infused with the power of the C'tan, godlike entities that once ruled the cosmos. The C'tan phase blades are weapons that do not cut in a conventional sense. Instead, they phase through solid matter, materializing inside their targets before resuming their tangible state, tearing apart flesh, armor, and bone at the atomic level. These weapons do not merely bypass armor, they make the very concept of defense meaningless. A fortress wall, a ceramite plate, or even an energy field, none offer protection. Against C'tan phase weaponry, the strongest defenses become little more than illusions. These weapons were used during the War in Heaven. You should imagine how potent it is. If it helped the Necrons overthrow the Old Ones, literal gods, and bring ruin to the ancient galaxy. And though the Eldar ultimately destroyed themselves, whispers persist that Necron technology played a role in their decline. Blackstone Fortresses. Towering, enigmatic monuments of destruction, the Blackstone Fortresses are among the greatest mysteries of the Warhammer 40k universe. Ancient beyond reckoning, these massive constructs drift silently through the void, their origins lost to time. Even the most learned scholars of the Imperium can only speculate about who built them, why, and how. But while their history remains unknown, their apocalyptic power is undeniable. A Blackstone Fortress isn't just a battle station, it's not even just a superweapon. It's a force of nature, capable of wiping out entire fleets with ease. More terrifying still, these fortresses wield anti-warp energy, making them one of the few weapons in existence that can disrupt chaos itself. By nullifying the influence of the Imperium, they can shut down demonic incursions, sever psychic connections, and strip chaos forces of their unholy power. In short, if you're a servant of the ruinous powers, being anywhere near one of these things is a very bad idea. Because of this, Blackstone Fortresses are among the most sought after and fought over prizes in the galaxy. Control one, and you hold a weapon capable of reshaping the balance of power across entire sectors. Lose one, and well, the Imperium has a long history of doing just that. One example where the Blackstone Fortress was used to devastating effect was a Gothic war, Abaddon's ultimate power grab. If there's one thing Abaddon the Despoiler loves more than ruining the Imperium's day, it's stealing planet-killing weapons. And during the Gothic War, he did exactly that. Seizing multiple Blackstone fortresses, he turned them into the deadliest siege weapons in history, using their devastating power to crush Imperial defenses and nearly shatter the Imperium's hold on the Segmentum Obscurus. The Imperium scrambled to respond, but they were dealing with something far beyond their usual battles. Imperial Navy fleets vanished in an instant, planets were blasted into ruin, and the Chaos forces, usually reliant on the warp for their power, suddenly had a superweapon designed specifically to counteract their weaknesses, and they were the ones wielding it. By the time the war ended, Abaddon had left a trail of devastation across the sector. While some of the fortresses were lost or destroyed, the Imperium never fully recovered from what they had suffered. To this day, the Gothic War remains one of the greatest military disasters in Imperial history. For a brief moment, the Imperium actually managed to possess the Blackstone Fortress, and in classic Imperial fashion, they immediately proceeded to lose control of it. It's a story as old as time. The Imperium finds a place of incredibly advanced ancient technology. They don't fully understand it, but use it anyway. Something goes catastrophically wrong. Chaos, Xenos, or some other galactic horror swoops in and takes it away. This time was no different. The Imperium, in its usual mixture of arrogance and desperation, attempted to harness the immense power of a Blackstone Fortress without truly comprehending it. Before long, it either got corrupted, stolen, or turned against them. The exact details vary depending on which Imperial bureaucrat is trying to rewrite the history books. The only consistent fact is that the Imperium, for all its might, cannot be trusted to hold on to nice things. Blackstone Fortresses remain one of the greatest wildcards in Warhammer 40k. Their full capabilities are still only partially understood, and with so many factions vying for control of them, they continue to shape the galaxy's fate. WAAAGH energy. The orcs are the craziest and baddest entities in Warhammer 40k. While the whole galaxy burns, they just want to have, their whole race defies logic. Their weapons defy physics. Their entire existence is an insult to the known laws of reality. And at the heart of it all is WAAAGH energy, an unstoppable force powered by the sheer belief of the orc race. Orcs do not build weapons in the traditional sense. Their firearms, vehicles, and war machines are ramshackle abominations, cobbled together from junk and looted scraps. By any rational standard, these contraptions should not function. And yet, they do, because orcs believe they do. A gun with no ammunition? An orc believes it can fire, and it does. A vehicle painted red? It now moves faster because red goes faster. A massive war machine made of scrap? If enough orcs thinks it's invincible, it's invincible. The Doom of Malan'tai. There are few things as terrifying as the Tyranids, but even among their number, one bioform stands out as a true nightmare. The Doom of Malan'tai is a zoanthrope of unparalleled psychic power, a being that feeds on the very life force of its victims. Unlike conventional Tyranid monstrosities, which consume flesh and bone, the Doom of Malan'tai drains the souls of its prey, growing stronger with every life it consumes. When the Doom of Malan'tai attacked the Eldar craft world of Malan'tai, his presence alone was enough to cause psychic devastation on an unprecedented scale. Eldar Psykers, among the most powerful in the galaxy, were left powerless as their spirits were devoured before they could even react. Within hours, an entire craft world lay in ruin, its people reduced to nothingness. Why is it feared? It kills without needing to physically attack. The Doom does not need claws or fangs, its very presence siphons life. It grows stronger with each victim. The more it feeds, the more powerful it becomes, turning into a psychic behemoth. The World Engine. Most factions build warships to fight their battles. The Necrons, in their infinite robotic wisdom, looked at that idea and said, "Cute, but what if the warship was a planet?" Thus, the World Engine was born. A Necron tomb world turned into a fully mobile, nigh indestructible battleship. A literal Death Star, but, cooler. This wasn't some fancy flagship or a high-tech dreadnought. No, the World Engine was a fully operational planet armed to the metallic teeth. It had void shields stronger than Imperium's collective denial, weapons that could delete entire fleets, and defenses so impenetrable that the Imperium had to resort to the most desperate strategy in its long history of desperate strategies, dying heroically and hoping for the best. It wasn't just big. It was a freaking planet. The Imperium used its fighting battleships, maybe even the odd space station, but when the enemy shows up with an entire celestial body, things start to feel a little unfair. Its void shields made Imperial tech look like a toaster. The World Engine was so well protected that entire fleets were rendered completely useless against it. If the Mechanicus had emotions, they would have cried. One time, the Imperium threw an entire Space Marine chapter at it, and barely won. Spoiler alert, the only reason the Imperium won was because the Astral Knights went full weeball. After exhausting literally every other option, the Imperium did what it does best, finding a group of Space Marines and telling them to go die gloriously for the Emperor. The Astral Knights were that group. Realizing that no conventional method could stop the World Engine, they decided on an unconventional one: crash their ships into it, storm the interior like a metal-clad suicide squad, blow themselves up in the core, taking the whole thing with them. It worked. The World Engine died. So did the entire Astral Knights chapter. A small price to pay for salvation, according to some Inquisitor who didn't even make their way over to the battlefield. The Tesseract Vault, a prison for gods. Among the vast and terrifying arsenal of the Necrons, few constructs inspire as much dread and existential terror as the Tesseract Vault. While the Imperium quakes at the thought of Blackstone Fortresses, relics of mysterious origin and devastating power, the Tesseract Vault is something even worse. It isn't just a weapon, it's a prison. But not for criminals, traitors, or even those xenos who refuse to take a hint and die already. No, this vault holds something far worse. It holds gods. How did this weapon of unimaginable power come to be? Once upon a time, millions of years ago, but who's counting? The Necrons weren't just another hyper-advanced race of machine overlords. They were flesh and blood, and they had gods. The C'tan, starborn entities who wielded cosmic power like a child wields a magnifying glass over an anthill. Necrons served them, fought for them, and in return, the C'tan feasted upon their souls like an all-you-can-eat buffet. That was until the Necrons decided, wait a minute, we don't actually need to be soul fodder, do we? What followed was one of the greatest betrayals in galactic history. The Necrons turned on their divine overlords, shattering them into fragments and locking them away in living constructs of black metal, the Tesseract Vaults. These aren't mere prisons. They are cosmic cages suppressing all the will of godlike beings who would very much like to tear reality apart out of sheer spite. And the worst part, the Necrons still use them as weapons. You might be wondering, why would anyone willingly unleash a furious, imprisoned god onto a battlefield? Well, the Necrons, being the smug mechanical geniuses they are, figured out a way to partially control the C'tan within the vault. Notice the emphasis on partially. Even under the best circumstances, releasing a Tesseract Vault is like opening Pandora's box. But with lasers, black holes, and a lot more screaming. Here's why. It holds a literal god captive, and this isn't some mythological god who just throws lightning bolts around for fun. This is a star-eating, reality-breaking, I existed before your planet was even a twinkle in the cosmos type of god. If it ever fully breaks loose, well, say goodbye to local physics and possibly your entire existence. Reality-warping destruction. The C'tan are beings who don't just bend the rules of the universe, they rewrite them mid-battle. Space-time itself can twist, gravity can invert, and armies can blink out of existence without so much as a goodbye letter. Even the Necrons fear it. The Necrons are not exactly known for their emotions, or their warmth, or their ability to take a joke. But even they regard the Tesseract Vault as a last resort. They might unleash it in dire circumstances, but they're never comfortable doing so, because they know that if the vault breaks, they could be next on the cosmic chopping block. What are some of the famous incidents of vault unleashings? Well, the Necrons aren't reckless enough to use Tesseract Vaults frequently, but when they do, history remembers. When Zarek, the Silent King, returned to the galaxy after his long, self-imposed exile, he didn't just walk back in and ask for his throne back, he unleashed several Tesseract Vaults, and entire enemy fleets were obliterated before they even had a chance to fire back. It wasn't a battle, it was an execution. A splinter of the Tyranid Hive Fleet Leviathan made the foolish mistake of invading a Necron tomb world. The Necrons, being the kind and understanding beings they are not, decided to release a vault just to see what would happen. The result? The Tyranids were erased so completely that their own hive minds seemed to forget they ever existed. During a war between the Imperium and the Necrons, the latter got bored of the standard pew-pew lasers and decided to escalate matters with the Tesseract Vault. The Imperium's response? Oh, throne, no! Entire regiments vanished, ships crumpled like tin cans, and the battlefield itself became a warped nightmare of impossible geometry. The survivors, what little remained of them, could never fully explain what they had seen. So, should you be worried? If you're a human, an orc, an Eldar, or really anything that isn't a Necron, the answer is yes. Absolutely yes. The Tesseract Vault isn't just a weapon, it's a cosmic time bomb, barely kept in check by the most arrogant race of deathless robots in existence. If one ever breaks loose without anything to contain it, you won't even have time to regret your life choices before reality itself decides it's done playing fair. So next time you hear whispers of a Necron dynasty awakening, maybe start planning your vacation to another galaxy, just in case. The Virus Bomb. The Imperium has perfected the art of extermination, and few weapons illustrate this better than the Virus Bomb. Unlike conventional weapons, which rely on brute force, virus bombs eliminate entire populations in the most horrific way imaginable. Upon detonation, a virus bomb unleashes a bioagent so lethal that it liquefies all organic matter in minutes. Those affected melt into piles of sludge, unable to scream, unable to escape. But the nightmare does not end there. After the virus has devoured all biological material, it ignites the planet's atmosphere, turning the world into a flaming wasteland. All enemies have the right to fear this dangerous weapon because it spells instant death for all living beings. No army, no fortification can survive it. The virus bomb leaves infrastructure intact, apart from the cleanup crew coming in to help clear the bodies. They don't have to rebuild, so the Imperium can repopulate the planet later with new, more obedient citizens. What is the most famous use of the virus bomb? The Isvan III atrocity, of course. Horus used virus bombs to wipe out loyalist space marines before they even knew they were betrayed. The Deathstrike Missile. Most weapons need multiple shots to be effective. The Deathstrike Missile does not. It is a single-shot, one-use weapon designed to wipe out armies, cities, or anything unfortunate enough to exist within its target radius. The Imperial Guard rarely uses the Deathstrike, not because it is ineffective, but because it is so apocalyptically powerful that deploying it is seen as a last resort. Once the missile is armed, it locks onto its target and delivers absolute destruction. Entire war zones disappear in seconds. The true horror of the Deathstrike is its psychological impact. Unlike traditional artillery, it takes a painfully long time to charge up, meaning its targets know what is coming, but they cannot stop it. The moment it launches, it's already too late. But why is it so scary? If the fact that its missile is capable of huge destruction isn't enough, a single Deathstrike launch is often enough to end an entire battle. Once it locks on, the only option is to die. Even those colossal war machines, the Titans, avoid being in its range. Worldbreaker. Some weapons exist to be wielded by armies, leveling battlefields and obliterating planets. Others are more personal, meant to be carried by warriors who define the battlefield just by standing on it. Worldbreaker is the latter, a colossal war mace infused with the raw power of the dark gods, wielded by Abaddon the Despoiler himself. If you couldn't tell from the name already, this weapon was made with the intentions to wreak some major havoc. To call it a weapon almost feels like an understatement. Worldbreaker isn't just a tool for combat, it's a wrecking ball of pure destruction in the hands of a man who woke up one day and decided the galaxy needed more explosions and fewer loyalists. Forged for one purpose and one purpose alone: to tear down the Imperium, one ruined fortress, one shattered skull, and one very confused commissar at a time. This isn't some dainty relic or ornate blade handed down by loyalist fools who believe in honor. This is a horrifyingly oversized, chaos-infused demolition tool, a combination of brute strength, warp corruption, and Abaddon's perpetual bad mood. When Worldbreaker swings, something will break. Whether it's a fortress, a Titan's armor plating, or the confidence of an entire squad of Space Marines who just realized their bolters are doing absolutely nothing. And the best part? The longer a battle lasts, the stronger it gets. Because, you see, most weapons rely on maintenance, ammunition, or some kind of logical energy source. Worldbreaker? It runs on sheer, unfiltered chaos energy, which means that every time Abaddon smashes another loyalist into a fine red mist, the weapon only grows more powerful. In short, fighting Abaddon while he's wielding Worldbreaker is like trying to stop a wrecking ball with a stern talking to. Not only will it not work, but the wrecking ball will actively enjoy breaking you. Why is it feared? Well, it might have something to do with the fact that it's already killed thousands. Let's be real, if you see Abaddon charging at you with Worldbreaker, you have two options: die immediately, or die slightly later but in a much messier way. And because it's infused with chaos energy, the longer Abaddon fights, the harder he hits. Unlike lesser weapons that get worn down, Worldbreaker ramps up the destruction like a boss fight with infinite power-ups. Even Terminator armor won't save you. Loyalists love their shiny, supposedly indestructible armor, but when Worldbreaker comes crashing down, even the toughest Astartes crumble like a poorly built IKEA shelf. It was also famously used during the Battle of Cadia. Ah, Cadia, the one thing standing between chaos and the rest of the Imperium. Surely it could withstand anything, right? Wrong. When Abaddon arrived with Worldbreaker in hand, he did what he always does: ruined everything. He led the Black Legion, smashed through fortifications that had stood for millennia, and personally ended the dreams of countless Imperial commanders who really should have known better by now. By the time the battle was over, the Cadian Gate was shattered, and Cadia was no longer a thing that existed. Somewhere, an Imperial officer probably tried to write "Hold the line" in his war journal one last time, before Worldbreaker turned him into a cautionary tale. The Vortex Grenade. Most grenades explode. The Vortex Grenade does not. Instead, it rips open a hole in reality, sucking everything within its radius into the warp. The fate of those caught in the Vortex Grenade's blast is worse than death. They do not burn. They do not shatter. They are torn apart by the raw, unfiltered energy of the Immaterium itself. their very existence erased. And if they're unlucky, they do not die at all. They're trapped in the warp, screaming for eternity. Even demons fear the Vortex Grenade, for its effects are unpredictable. Some rifts vanish instantly, others linger, spreading chaotic destruction across entire battlefields. There are quite a couple of reasons why it is feared by all. Erases enemies from existence. There is no coming back from a Vortex Grenade. Getting in contact with it means you're gone. Poof. Warp-based annihilation. Even Chaos Lords hesitate to face it. It also has its downsides. It can be unstable and unpredictable. Once thrown, no one knows when or if it will close. During the Horus Heresy, it was used as a last resort against chaos, often with devastating results. The Harlequin's Caress. There are weapons that shatter armor, weapons that incinerate flesh, and then there are weapons that simply erase you from existence. The Harlequin's Caress is one such weapon, an elegant and terrifying tool of death wielded by the enigmatic Eldar Harlequins. At first glance, the Harlequin's Caress appears to be a simple glove, but in reality, it is a molecular disrupting device that phases through armor and flesh alike, allowing its wielder to pass their hand through an opponent's body only for it to solidify inside them, rupturing organs and liquefying bones. It is not a weapon of brute force, nor a weapon of excessive bloodshed. It is a weapon of surgical annihilation, a tool of warriors who fight not for conquest but for performance. Each kill another perfect stroke in the dance of death. It's feared by all because it literally bypasses all armor and defenses. Power armor, void shields, and force fields, you name it, they all mean nothing against it. The destruction is instant and painless. Victims often do not even realize they have been killed until they collapse into a lifeless heap. A weapon of precision, not brutality. Unlike chainswords or bolters, the Harlequin's Caress leaves no mess, no wounds, just death. During the raid on Biel-Tan, a strike team of Harlequins eliminated an entire Chaos warband in mere minutes, using their caresses to pass through their armor and destroy their enemies from within. And in the Dark Eldar infiltration battles, many Drukhari cabals learned to fear the Harlequins' silent, elegant destruction. The Titan Plasma Cannon. The Imperium of Man is known for its excessive, over-the-top firepower, and when it comes to pure plasma devastation, nothing surpasses the Titan Plasma Cannon. A standard plasma gun is dangerous enough, superheated energy capable of melting through ceramite and bone alike. A Titan-class plasma cannon, however, operates on a completely different level. Mounted on the Imperator-class Titans, these colossal weapons do not just destroy tanks, buildings, or enemy lines, they erase entire battlefields. Upon impact, a Titan plasma cannon's blast vaporizes everything within its blast radius. Vehicles melt, fortifications crumble, and infantry are reduced to little more than shadows burned into the ground. Why is it feared? Well, the Titan plasma cannon is capable of leveling entire city blocks. One shot is enough to flatten everything within kilometers. Superheated energy means no remains. Unlike other weapons, nothing is left behind, only molten slag and fire. Deployed only on the mightiest war machines, this is not a weapon carried by ordinary soldiers. It is the breath of gods of war. One of the most famous battles the Titan plasma cannon was used in, the Siege of Terra. Imperial Titans used plasma weaponry to carve through the traitor legions, turning Horus's forests into little more than molten wreckage. It was also used at the Battle of Beta Garman, a legendary battle where Titan-on-Titan combat saw the annihilation of entire armies in plasma firestorms. The Cyclone Missile Launcher. Sometimes, war is not about single, decisive strikes. Sometimes the only way to win is to drown your enemies in firepower. Enter the Cyclone Missile Launcher, the ultimate ranged weapon for Space Marine Terminators. While a standard missile launcher can fire a single warhead, the Cyclone missile launcher unleashes entire salvos, raining death upon enemy ranks in an unrelenting barrage. Mounted atop the heavy armor of Terminators, this weapon is capable of obliterating vehicles, infantry, and fortifications alike, offering unparalleled firepower in the hands of the Imperium's elite warriors. It's not a single shot, but a storm of destruction. It can be fired on the move. Unlike static artillery, Terminators bring this firepower straight to the enemy. It is also used by the Emperor's finest warriors. If you see a Cyclone missile launcher, you're already in big trouble. During the Purging of Iyanden, Astartes Terminators use Cyclone missile launchers to hold back an entire Tyranid swarm, carpet bombing the battlefield. The Crusade of Iron. Entire Chaos Legions were shattered under a storm of missile fire. The Storm Surge Pulse Driver Cannon. The Ta'au Empire may be the new kids on the galactic block, but they didn't come to play. They came to rewrite the rules of warfare. While the Imperium lumbers forward with its cathedral-sized tanks and the orcs rely on sheer madness to win fights, the Ta'au prefers something far more elegant. Overwhelming firepower delivered with surgical precision, and at the pinnacle of their weaponry sits a Storm Surge Pulse Driver Cannon. A piece of artillery so advanced, it makes even Space Marines rethink their life choices. Mounted atop the KV-128 Storm Surge battlesuit, this Colossus Pulse Driver isn't just another big gun. It's the embodiment of the Ta'au doctrine: strike hard, strike fast, and leave nothing standing. Designed for long-range devastation, the Pulse Driver Cannon hurls high-velocity energy pulses across battlefields, slicing through armor, fortifications, and anything unfortunate enough to be caught in its path. Unlike the Imperium's habit of solving problems by throwing increasingly larger explosions at them, the Ta'au believe in efficiency. Every shot counts, and every shot lands with devastating accuracy. And, unlike Orc artillery, which fires mostly on a combination of luck, loud noises, and faith in Gork and Mork, the Ta'au actually aim before they fire. A radical concept, really. If you hear the high-pitched scream of a pulse driver round in the distance, congratulations, you have approximately half a second to contemplate your existence before ceasing to have one. Here's why this weapon is feared across the galaxy. It doesn't just break defenses, it deletes them. No fortress, shield, or bunker can withstand its might. Walls? Gone. Armor? Shredded. Hopes and dreams? Vaporized. Unmatched range and accuracy. Unlike most artillery, which relies on the philosophy of fire and pray, the Pulse Driver Cannon actually hits its target. Orcs fire wildly. Imperials drown the battlefield in explosions. The Ta'au? They pick a target and erase it with mathematical precision. Engineered for efficiency, not excess. In a galaxy where most factions believe bigger is better, the Ta'au decided that smarter is better. Instead of wasting energy on unnecessary overkill, like, say, a Nova cannon that can obliterate an entire fleet, the Pulse Driver Cannon ensures that every shot counts. Even the most stubborn Imperial commanders have learned to respect and fear the Ta'au's firepower, and nowhere was that clearer than during the Damocles Gulf Crusade. The Imperium marched into Ta'au space with all confidence of a drunk space marine demanding another round. Then, they met the Storm Surge. As the Crusade pushed forward, entire regiments of Astra Militarum were obliterated before they even got close. Leman Russ tanks turned into scrap metal. Astartes strongholds crumbled, and for the first time in centuries, the Imperium had to do something it rarely does: rethink its approach. The Crusade faltered, and while the Imperium would never admit it outright, the effectiveness of the Pulse Driver Cannon was a major reason why the campaign didn't go as planned. It turns out that when the Ta'au say, "for the greater good," they mean, for the greater good of ruining your entire army from half a continent away. Warhammer 40k is a universe where war is constant, and the weapons used are beyond comprehension. From planet-destroying superweapons to reality-breaking relics, from the brute force of the Imperium to the unkillable monstrosities of chaos, every faction wields something beyond terror. These weapons do not just win battles. They decide the fate of an entire star system. A single Exterminatus order, a single Necron artifact, or a single Tyranid biomonstrosity can end entire civilizations in the blink of an eye. But in the end, the most terrifying weapon in the Warhammer 40k universe is not a plasma cannon, not a Blackstone Fortress, and not even the will of chaos. It is the unrelenting will to use them. Because in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.